Shalom, Akim. Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Rukakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to you, brother out there that's taking this thing seriously, that's looking to increase in the spirit, to continue to grow and build the house of David till the 144 can be sealed and we can call upon Yahushua's return. You know, it's getting juicy in these markets. It's getting juicy politically. It's getting juicy economically. I was just watching the stock markets. I'm in chat with some of the other heads of the camps all across the United States. And I told one of the brothers, the brother Yashawan from Great Waters, we're looking to do an algorithm update this Sunday. So you brothers, mark your calendars. We're going to do a algorithm update, Lord willing. We'll also have the brother Required Quam from London on, so it'll be us three. Brother Required Quam is going to kind of go over some of the things that are going on in Europe. We're going to touch on the Yellow Vest Revolution and its impact, touch on the Brexit that's going to be coming up in 2019. We're going to talk about the economy, touch on some things that are manifesting within these markets, and politically, we know that Trump just pulled, or he announced that they were going to pull out of Syria, those implications and what that means. But I just want to do a quick update just because it's so hot right now, so juicy, I don't even know what I'm going to call this video. I told the brother, I said, if the Fed increases interest rates at the end of this quarter, I told him, I said, I'm gonna mess around and pop a bottle, man. So after I get up out of here, I'm going to go get me some tequila and celebrate. And we're seeing the repercussions of that increase in that rate hike. I just want to talk about that a little bit and what does that mean prophecy-wise, and how does that play into what the prophecies say will happen in these last days. Before I did that, I typed into YouTube GMS grinding cease just to see, how many videos will pop up. And this is something that, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, we've been taught these scriptures and these breakdowns from our apostles and elders. And, you type in understanding these things, and you got videos on videos on videos of brothers, touching on this topic, going in on this topic of the grinding ceasing and, of a looming economic halt that's set to come in these last days, man. And it's a beautiful thing to see things come together and just to see how things are manifesting themselves in the world, okay? I want to play a couple of clips, touch on a few things, and then we'll go from there, Lord willing. This is edifying. Play this clip here. This is a good YouTube page, Truth Never Told. They like going on gold and silver, but, right now this video is going to talk about the Fed rate hike, and then we're going to talk about that, go through a couple of scriptures.
Well, the Fed is the rate reaper. There is a total of $184 trillion of global debt, or the equivalent of $86,000 per person on Earth, and the Fed's continuing to raise rates.
Imagine you're born into $86,000 worth of debt. Every single person, wherever you are in the world. And when they raise these rates, basically it makes it more expensive to borrow money. And right now, all across the world, there's a borrowing frenzy from large corporations and banks borrowing money so they can keep their doors open, all the way down to the credit card users of everyday, life. Most people live a broke lifestyle. They don't make enough to pay their bills, and they close the gap in between with credit cards. And so the rates on those credit cards are going to increase. The rates on mortgages are going to increase. The rates on borrowing money in general is going to increase, which makes it riskier for people who have bad credit ratings or who have a lot of debt already. It makes it harder for them to borrow. So a lot of people that were eligible for certain levels of loans, because of the rate hike, they're not eligible for those same loans. So, there's a lot of repercussions from that. We'll talk about that.
So I've had this, idea of the rate reaper coming through, because if there's one qualified absolute of predictor of a recession, depression. It is rising interest rates from the Federal Reserve, killing any sort of economic expansion. Since the 2008 financial crisis, they have kept rates at an historically, ridiculously, impossibly low 0% interest rate for far too long. As soon as it became apparent that Trump was going to get into office, he himself even said that we were living in a big fat bubble when he was candidate Trump.
We have the worst revival of an economy since the Great Depression. And believe me, we're in a bubble right now. And the only thing that looks good is the stock market. But if you raise interest rates even a little bit, that's going to come crashing down. We are in a big, fat, ugly bubble. And we better be awfully careful. And we have a Fed that's doing political things. This Janet Yellen of the Fed is doing political by keeping the interest rates at this level. And believe me, the day Obama goes off and he leaves and he goes out to the golf course for the rest of his life to play golf, when they raise interest rates, you're going to see some very bad things happen because the Fed is not doing their job. The Fed is being more political than Secretary Clinton.
And then when he became President Trump, he took credit for another 6,000 to 8,000 Dow points added on, and America's great again and all this other stuff.
All right, so they kept these rates low until Trump got in office, and it took some time to see the repercussions of them incrementally going up in this rate hike. In between that time that Trump first got in, the markets kept going up and skyrocketing into new highs, and they peaked back in October and began to come down. It would go up to this high level, couldn't get past what they call a resistance points of just above, $26,000 on the Dow and whatever in the NASDAQ and S&P 500, and then it'll come back down and it'll go back up, and it's kind of like a transmission sputtering or an engine sputtering. It was just like sputtering, and finally, once they did this latest hike, it initiated a very sharp drop off, man, and so this is what we're looking at. They raised those rates, and this was an article that CNBC came out with on Tuesday. It says the stock market is on pace for the worst December since the Great Depression. And I was showing these videos. This is something that brothers have been going into, that we're going to see these Great Depression like times, and we're seeing the beginning points of that. Okay, and it says here, two benchmark U.S. stock indices are careening towards a historically bad December. Both the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 are on pace for the worst December performance since 1931, when stocks were battered during the Great Depression. The Dow and S&P 500 closed Monday down 7.6% and 7.8% in this month, respectively. Then it gives this chart here of top 10 worst S&P 500 December performances. And this was back in 1931, a negative 14.5%. And on Monday, we saw a negative 7.8% this month. And since that time, we're looking at an increased drop right now, where you can go ahead and we're looking at the S&P down another 1.15%. Dow's down another 1.47% right now. We'll see if the plunge protection crew is able to bring those numbers back. They was down. The Dow was down 600 points earlier today. We'll see what happens at the close. But most likely this thing will get close to 10%. Maybe even more than that, because we still got quite a bit of the month left to go. So, oh man, it's getting juicy. It's getting juicy. And I'm enjoying every single second of watching this thing. And Lord willing, we'll be able to go in more detail on Sunday as things play out a little bit more, and brothers are gathering more articles and information, and we are getting into 2019 being very juicy. Apostle Tahar deemed this year 2018 a year of prophecy, and has that played out. It is definitely played out, and we're looking into 2019 being 2019 being explosive. And we're going to see where this thing goes. We're looking at a whole economic reboot, so we're going to see. It says December is typically a very positive month for markets. The Dow has only fallen during 25 December is going back to 1931. The S&P 500 averages a 1.6% gain for December, making it typically the best month for the market, according to the Stock Traders Almanac. Okay, so the fact that all this Christmas shopping, so-called Christmas shopping going on, and people are supposed to be buying and doing certain things in markets, well, there's a credit crunch right now and people can't go out and spend. And, people have been living so far on credit for so long, now things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse, So this thing is teeter-tottering like crazy. We just saw it down 300 something, now it's back down to 422. Look at that. I'm going to play a little bit of this real quick and then grab some scriptures.
Yesterday and that sort of Fed shock, what are you looking for today?
Well, I'm looking for stocks to really rethink the lows that we saw yesterday. There's often a visceral reaction to something like a Fed announcement, particularly given the press conference and some contents of it. So I'm looking for investors to rethink their initial assessment yesterday.
Markets are real good at that knee-jerk reaction, but perhaps calmer heads will prevail today. There we have the opening bell at both the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and we know stock futures were sort of all over the map ahead of the open, but we'll see where the Dow Jones Industrial Average opening up. All right, we're down triple digits right now, Christina. I mean, we appear to be in a hyper-sensitive market right now where, investors are just parsing every syllable, it sounds like, that Powell Fed chief.
Oh, man, this is great. I am enjoying every second. You brothers should be enjoying this, man. I hope you brothers are having a great day. This is the book of Ecclesiastes 12:4, classic. The door shall be shut in the streets. Verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. And the door shall be shut in the street when the sound of grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and the daughters of music shall be brought low. What happens whenever you have these big corporations losing all of this money? Basically, the stock market is a representation of investments that are going on in major industries, whether it be the tech industry, certain commodities, all across the world, these different large corporations. That's what the stock market is giving you, kind of the pulse of the global markets. And when you see these sharp declines, when you see 1.something%, you're looking at 1.something% of trillions of dollars that are circulating in the market. So to see, the Dow down by 300 points is literally hundreds of billions of dollars erased from different assets and different businesses. And what happens when you have that going on consistently, in what's coming is what's called a bear market. A bear market means that stocks have slid at least 20%, and we're entering bear market range. Look at that 144. Look at that. And when we look into these bear market levels, you're going to start to see layoffs. You're going to, if you're not making a lot of money, first thing you start cutting is employees. You start cutting down production, and that's what we'll probably start seeing more and more and more of in 2019. Is layoffs. What you'll also see is what we read in the book of 2nd Ezra. 2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 21 says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion." And the reason why things will be cheap is because people are going to run to the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar tends to get strong whenever you go into these times of recessions because it's believed to be a safe haven. So, for the citizens of Babylon, for the citizens of this place, they'll think that things are good because gas is cheap, food is cheap, but when actually evils are growing outside of this place, because when the dollar is strong, it's hard for other nations to do trade deals. Okay, because basically their money equals less, compared to the dollar. And so it makes them not want to buy. It makes them have a hard time of exporting and importing oil and gas, And so it strains out economies on the outside of the United States. So it makes them want to trade outside of the dollar and go outside of the means of using the dollar. And so even though victuals are cheap, then you can get stuff cheap here in the United States. on the outside, you know, there'll be problems. Okay, verse 22 says, "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the others shall escape the hunger. That escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." And there's definitely things going on, you know, with Trump just abruptly announcing that they want to get out of Syria. We know that there's different political deals going on. There's a transition getting ready to happen. You know, there's backdoor deals that are being cut that people don't know about between Russia, China, and the United States, you know, in the state of Israel. Well, what does that leave the Saudi Arabia? Where does that leave Jordan? Where does that leave Hezbollah? Where does that leave, you know, the Palestinians? Where does that leave Turkey? You know, where does that leave India and Pakistan? This is where you start to see tumults amongst the people because you got these backdoor political deals going on. Trump just getting out of Syria out of nowhere. There's something going on, man. So we're going to see what the Most High is putting into the minds of men. Okay? So we're getting to where things, you know, when you're cooking some food and you're trying to bring it to a boil, we got a light simmer. At first we were just putting in the salt and the pepper. You was putting in a little parsley and sage or whatever you want to put in there. And we was kind of stirring the pot. But now that pot is starting to come to a nice simmer. Things are starting to brew a little bit. You can start to, the house is starting, what you cooking? Oh, that smells good. Right now, the prophecies are starting to smell good. Okay? And this is why I tell brothers, just stay on track. Stay on course. Stay focused on personal, spiritual growth. Working as a unit. Stay focused on your personal spiritual growth and maintaining, working this ministry as a unified body. Keep preaching. Don't let your life go off on the deep end. Just continue to build. Yahweh Shemel Rashai is going to do what he said he was going to do. And we're watching it happen, and it's a beautiful thing. Okay? It's a beautiful thing. So let me update this page because I want to see what they're saying on this page here. You know. Meanwhile, I want to read this in the book of Isaiah. Is this what I wanted? No, that's not it. Right. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 10. It says, "For before these days there was no hire for man, nor any hire for beast, neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. For I set all men, every one against his neighbor." Okay? And so we're getting into those times. We're getting into those times of tumult. We're getting to the times of desperation. We're getting to the times where people are going to be looking to ease the pain. Because Americans have been living fat, man, high off the hog, as they say. And so when things start to get strained, now I'm having more people complaining or starting to complain about their 401k being hit. First, people like, but when this thing has dipped so hard from, you know, the Dow's at 22.8 now. That thing was at 26. So that's a significant slump. That's a significant slump, man.
Saluzzi, famous trading co-founder. Joe, what do you make of this? We've been saying for a while that basically this market just wants to go lower. You're there, you're sitting at a screen. Who is taking us lower? What's happening?
It's the proverbial they, as we say around here. They are taking us lower, right? And it's nice talking to you, Jen. What I just picked on from one of you, another guest, you were talking about small caps. And you know, when we trade a small cap, liquidity is really the issue. And even in non-volatile times, liquidity in small caps are difficult. Stocks trade maybe 100,000 shares a day or less. Those are not easy. And if you're an institutional investor and you're looking to move out, say, 50,000 shares of a stock that trades that little, on an average day, that's difficult. And on a volatile day, what happens is these markets move so quick, there is nobody there to supply liquidity. The buyers may...
Yeah, people are exiting these markets, man, because the risk is going up to invest in these companies. They don't have access to the levels of loans that they would need to sustain themselves. Okay, it's basically you've been living off credit cards, and so now they've made it harder for you to increase your credit limit. And so investors are seeing this and they're getting out. Okay, so it's making a sharp decline in the markets. People are taking their profits out of the markets. Okay, and so the Dow has a lot to go down. I mean, when you're looking at this 22,000, literally, there's still a lot more it could go before it's actually truly meaningful. You know, the thing needs to go down to like 11,000. You know, for it to be like, oh man, we're in trouble. Right now, it's all funny money, and it's all profits that's basically just being cut. We're not really getting into significant losses until this thing goes below 20,000 and beyond. And that's what we see this thing is headed, man. Okay? We see this headed. We're starting to see the simmerings of these problems within the markets. And this is something that we'll talk about. Will allow it to things to manifest, finish out the week. And Lord willing, like I said, me and a couple of brothers are going to talk about this on the next algorithm. These rate hikes, the oil prices. Well, what does that mean that oil's so cheap? Why is oil so cheap right now? There's a battle going on that people don't really know about between the United States, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the other oil-producing nations. Why is Trump leaving Syria? What does that mean? Why did he announce that? Some things that we want to touch in on that, but things are definitely getting juicy, man. So I just wanted to, kind of just come and highlight this right here. One video that I was watching, I kind of took it down, but it was off Weird Change with Luke Rudowski. He does a real good kind of like summary of things. And man, call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, man. I'm really enjoying watching this today. We're going to see what's going to happen. Please, brothers, add in on the comment boards scriptures if you like, points. And we'll come back and revisit these topics on Sunday, man. Hey, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah Bashem Rakakadash Barakatham. Shalom to you, Akiam, man. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, the great millstone. Shalom.
Hey, Shalom. Hey, Yahweh Shem Shabbat Shem Kwakadash Barakatah. Hey, my brother is moving, and he has some a washer and dryer that he's